Friends, there is no denying the fact that doctors are next to God when it comes to saving a life. But even doctors need the support of robust medical devices to save lives. According to the World Health Organization, there are an estimated 2 million different kinds of medical devices, ranging from a simple thermometer to a complex MRI equipment. These devices can be categorized into more than 7,000 generic device groups. Medical devices are essential tools for healthcare and have a direct impact on public health and quality of life. Therefore, their safety and efficacy are imperative. This is where the role of medical device standards comes into the picture. The development and use of such standards is vital to ensure safety and efficacy of medical devices. Friends, the Bureau of Indian Standards is formulating Indian standards for such medical devices and related areas. Let's hear more on this from Mr. P.V. Matthew, Head of the Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Department.
The Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Division Council of the Bureau of Indian Standards formulates national standards on medical instruments and hospital equipment. 20 sectional committees constituted under the Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Division Council are responsible for this. Over 1,400 standards have been formulated so far by the MHD. The 20 sectional committees of Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Division Council can broadly be categorized as surgical instruments and equipments, implants, contraceptives, assistive products, medical laboratory instruments and in vitro devices, anesthetics and resuscitators, hospital equipments and planning, health informatics, and electromedical and diagnostic equipments. In addition to formulation of indigenous standards, MHD also has close association with corresponding committees of the International Organization for Standardization and the International Electrotechnical Commission. Many of these standards have been and are being adopted after consensus in the corresponding sectional committees to facilitate harmonization of standards across the world. We also regularly contribute to the cause of global standardization by participating in the associated technical committees, and as on date, nearly 475 Indian standards have been harmonized with the global standards.
Friends, BIS is not only formulating the Indian standards for medical devices, but also contributing at the international level for the formulation of international deliverables pertaining to medical devices. India is prominently represented in the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, in several technical committees to address India's interest in this important arena. Let's hear more on international contributions of the BIS from Dr. Chandrasekhar, Chairman, Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Division Council.
Medical devices need to be compliant to a set of standards to ensure safety, quality and effectiveness. Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Department, MHD of Bureau of Indian Standards, has laid down more than 1,400 Indian standards for such devices, including 929 indigenous standards and 472 harmonized with ISO IEC. BIS is a participating member of 15 ISO IEC technical committees and 10 subcommittees and related domains. Under ISO TC 157 on non-systemic contraceptives and STI barrier prophylactics, BIS holds the convenership for WG17 synthetic male condoms and WG14 guidance on use of condom standards. BIS also holds convenership for WG12 general requirements of ISO TC 173 assistive products, which have led to formulation of ISO 21856 assistive products general requirements and test methods. Two proposals for international deliverables pertaining to health informatics in Ayurveda have been included so far in program of work of ISO TC 215 WG10 dealing with health informatics in traditional medicine.
Let me now take you to the mesmerizing and intricate world of medical devices and hospital planning. Let's see how our scientists and standard formulation experts make this apparently complicated task simple and lucid, so that the standards can be implemented with ease and uniformity to safeguard the interests of beneficiaries. Let's begin with our first category: surgical instruments and equipments. As you all know, surgeries are usually life-saving procedures and involve use of sophisticated instruments which need to be precise, robust and calibrated. Doctors require surgical intervention as a therapeutic means for certain pathological conditions, diagnostic aid for exploratory purpose and for cosmetic purpose. Standardization helps in achieving these objectives. One of the important surgical device standards developed in BIS is for endoscopes. Ms. Nagavarshini M., Member Secretary of Surgical Instruments Sectional Committee, has more details on this.
BIS has published Indian standards on medical endoscopes and endotherapy devices which are used by the surgeon for examination, diagnosis and therapy without major incision to allow easier recovery with less pain and discomfort. The first part of Indian Standard Series 15732 specifies the terminologies, general and specific requirements with the test procedure for evaluation of safety, biocompatibility and the measurement of field of view, direction of view, maximum width of insertion portion, minimum insertion width of instrument channel for both flexible and rigid endoscopes. It also specifies the requirements of deflection control system in endotherapy devices. The second part specifies the particular requirements and test procedure for rigid bronchoscopy and their accessories used in anesthesia and medical endoscopy. The part 3 specifies measurement requirements and test methods for measuring the field of view and direction of view of endoscopes. Part 4 in the series specifies the method of measurement of maximum insertion portion width of medical endoscopes. Part 7 specifies the basic requirement and test procedure for water-resistant medical endoscopy.
Have a look at some more important standards under this category. Friends, ear, nose and throat diagnostic devices are the most important tools in the field of otorhinolaryngology. Today we have easy to use diagnostic devices which make it very convenient for doctors to examine patients facing problems with ear, nose and throat. One such device that provides for easy examination of the ear is the digital otoscope. Let's hear Ms. Gurpreet Kaur, Member Secretary of the ENT Surgery Instruments Sectional Committee.
A digital otoscope is a device used for examination of the ear canal and tympanic membrane or eardrum. It typically consists of a specula which is inserted into the ear to capture the image and an otoscope head which consists of the LED light source. The Indian Standard 17407 specifies the requirements for handheld digital otoscope. As per the standard, a handheld digital otoscope shall be a portable battery-operated device which has a display screen and software for transferring images of the ear canal. The standard specifies general requirements regarding the size and weight, minimum resolution of image, and storage of captured images. The functional requirements include device body, lens assembly, battery and charging, as well as the application-based software. The otoscope may have the provision of a Bluetooth printer to print patient receipts after screening. The device must conform to the test specified in the standard for light output, drop test and the human exposure to radio frequency fields from wireless communication devices.
Here's a list of some other important standards in this category. Practicing good oral hygiene is important to maintain a healthy mouth, teeth and gums. It also augments your appearance and quality of life. Not properly taking care of your teeth and gums can lead to a variety of health problems, ranging from loss of teeth and gum disease to heart disease and even diabetes. Bad practices in the care of teeth and gums can cause a number of problems, the most obvious being dental caries, whose management requires filling the dental cavity with an amalgam. This brings us to the next category, which is implants. Let's hear more from Dr. Pradeep Dua, Member Secretary of Dentistry Sectional Committee.
Oral health is considered to be an indicator of overall health of an individual. The Indian standard 24234 deals with dental amalgam, which is commonly used in dental procedures. An amalgam is a mixture of an alloy with mercury. The alloy used in dental amalgam primarily consists of silver, tin, copper and zinc. Mercury used in dental amalgam is purified by the method of distillation and other procedures to remove the impurities. Dental amalgam is used as a restorative material in dentistry to fill the cavities caused by dental caries, commonly referred to as tooth decay. This Indian standard mentions the requirements and test methods for the dental amalgam alloy, primarily containing silver, tin and copper with traces of platinum, indium, palladium and zinc. It is noteworthy that mercury is present in less than 3% mass by fraction. This standard is applicable to dental amalgam alloy supplied in bulk in the form of free-flowing powder as well as its tablet and pre-capsulated versions. The high copper dental amalgams having more than 12% copper content by mass as well as the low copper dental amalgams having less than 12% copper content by mass have been included in this Indian standard. Since spillage of mercury and consequent vapor inhalation can be a health hazard, hence this Indian standard lays adequate emphasis on appropriate packaging, marking, labeling and handling of dental amalgam.
Have a look at some more important standards under this category. Friends, implants are needed for correction of neurological abnormalities too. The neurological implants enable communication between the brain and electronic devices, thus permitting brain activity to be modified, recorded and translated. The modification of brain activity through electrical stimulation is used to treat maladaptive brain activity that arises from neurological diseases such as epilepsy, accumulation of cerebrospinal fluid, poor balance and swelling in the brain. Let's hear more about neurological implants from Ms. Urusa Warsi, Member Secretary of Neurological Implants, Instruments and Accessories Sectional Committee.
Hydrocephalus is a condition in which an accumulation of cerebrospinal fluid occurs within the brain. This typically causes increased pressure inside the skull. A shunt in this case is a thin tube implanted in the brain to drain away the excess cerebrospinal fluid to another part of the body, often the abdominal cavity, where it is absorbed into the bloodstream. It includes a valve which determines the intraventricular pressure in the brain of patients and influences the flow rate through the shunt to treat hydrocephalus. The Indian standard 7197 specifies safety, performance and technical requirements for a sterile, single-use, non-active hydrocephalus shunt and its component like valves, tubes and reservoirs. It also covers important requirements for the basis of investigation from the stage of development to quality control and the specific requirements like reflux performance that connects ventricle to blood system. It also specifies the influence of the change posture of the patient on valve performance, test methods of biocompatibility, resistance to leakage, control pressure flow characteristics of component, dynamic braking strength and bursting pressure are also included in the standard. Instructions for the pre and post operative testing of functionality of shunt is also provided. This standard benefits the surgeon and patient to understand the information given by the manufacturer and to obtain a standardized information about the performance of the product.
These are some other important standards under this category. Friends, the humble fist-sized pump beats ceaselessly to keep us alive, but at times our heart also needs to be fixed. Nearly 1/4 of all deaths worldwide are attributable to cardiovascular diseases, including stroke and ischemic heart disease. Vascular and cardiovascular implants, including vascular stents, vascular grafts, polymeric heart valves intervention, have great significance in treating cardiovascular diseases. This brings us to the next category, cardiovascular implants. Let's hear more on this from Member Secretary of Thoracic and Cardiovascular Surgery Instruments Sectional Committee, Ms. Urusa Warsi.
Aortic stenosis occurs when the heart's aortic valve narrows, which reduces or blocks blood flow from your heart into the aorta and thereby to the rest of the body. Stents are small tubular scaffolds widely used in the treatment of arterial stenosis, that is, narrowing of the vessel, to prevent acute vessel closure and late-ray stenosis in a variety of vessels such as coronary arteries. It is put into the newly opened area of the artery to help keep the artery from narrowing or closing again. Once the stent has been placed, tissue will start to coat the stent like a layer of skin. The stent will be fully lined with the tissue within 3 to 12 months depending on if the stent has a medicine coating or not. The Indian Standard 25539 Part 2 provide minimum requirements for endovascular devices and the method of test for evaluation. It covers requirements for intended performance, design attributes, materials, design evaluation, manufacturing and sterilization, packaging of vascular stent used to treat vascular lesion or stenosis or other vascular abnormalities. Delivery system are also included if they comprise of an integral component of deployment of vascular stents. The design attributes include consistent, accurate and safe access to intended location, safe deployment of stent and safe withdrawal of delivery system so as to minimize the blood loss. Test method for torsional bond strength, tube tensile, biocompatibility, assessment of homeostasis, conformity to with the vessel wall, local compression, radial force, stent integrity are also specified in the Indian Standard.
Here's a list of some other important standards in this category. Owing to the scientific and technological advancements over the years, it is now possible to have surgical procedures in order to restore organs or limbs which have partially or totally lost their function. Orthopedic surgery, dealing with restoration of joint functions, is the arthroplasty procedure, which is the partial or total replacement of a dysfunctional joint. Most important of the arthroplasty procedures include the knee and the hip joint replacement surgeries. The standards pertaining to the requirements for knee and hip joint replacement implants fall under the Orthopedic Instruments, Implants and Accessories Sectional Committee. Ms. Gurpreet Kaur, Member Secretary, has more details on these standards.
A joint replacement surgery may be done in case of extreme injury or a disease, osteoarthritis being the most common. In order to understand the requirements of an implant, it is important to know its components and how it reproduces the function of the original joint being replaced. The knee joint is formed by the femur, which is the thigh bone, the tibia, that is the shin bone, the patella, that is the kneecap, and the proximal part of the fibula. The flexion and extension of the knee takes place with the help of the articulating surfaces of the femur and the tibia. The Indian Standard 21536 gives the specific requirements for knee joint replacement implant. The knee implant has a metallic or ceramic femoral component which replaces the articulating surface of the femur, a tibial component made of ultra high molecular weight polyethylene which replaces the articulating surface of the tibia. The patellar component replaces the articulating surface of the patella. The tibial tray supports the tibial component. The standard defines these components along with their design attributes. The standard also specifies the intended performance material requirements, design evaluation that includes endurance test for tibial trays and wear testing, manufacturing requirements, sterilization and packaging requirements. The hip joint is a ball and socket joint formed by the femur or femoral head and the socket in the pelvis called the acetabulum. The Indian Standard 21535 gives the specific requirements for hip joint replacement implant. The hip implant consists of an acetabular component fixed to the biological acetabulum with the help of a bone cement and a femoral component which fits into it. The standard defines these components and specifies their design attribute. It also specifies the requirements for intended performance including range of angular movements of flexion extension, abduction adduction and internal external rotation. Other than this, The standard includes material requirements, design evaluation which includes endurance testing of femoral components and wear testing, manufacturing requirements, sterilization and packaging requirements. Along with the specific requirements, it is important that the Indian standard 21534 joint replacement implants particular requirements be referred.
Here's a list of some other important standards in this category. Friends, the eyes function like a camera and play an essential part in sensing the environment around us. Like any other organ, eyes also age, but development of cataract leads to severe impairment of vision and associated complications. Fortunately, these days we have advanced technology available to replace the worn-out eye lens with an artificial look-alike medical device commonly called an intraocular lens or IOL. This leads us to the next category of ophthalmic implants. Let's hear more on this from Ms. Nagavarshini M., Member Secretary of the corresponding sectional committee.
BIS has published Indian standards on intraocular lenses which are widely used in cataract surgeries to replace the cataractous natural lens of the eye. It is also used in correcting errors in nearsightedness, farsightedness and astigmatic eyes using phakic intraocular lenses which are implanted without removing the patient's natural crystalline lens. This Indian Standard Series 11979 specifies the fundamental requirements of all types of intraocular lenses intended for surgical implantation into the human eye. It specifies the requirements and test methods for evaluating the optical and mechanical properties of intraocular lenses. It mentions the particular requirements for biocompatibility evaluation of materials and tests by which the shelf life of sterile intraocular lenses in their final packing can be determined. The procedure for establishing the stability of intraocular lenses in distribution and storage is also stated. The specific requirements for multifocal intraocular lenses and phakic intraocular lenses are also highlighted in the standard.
Have a look at some more important standards under this category. Friends, we've all heard about contraceptives and we consider them as aids primarily meant for prevention of unwanted pregnancy. But they also play a vital role in protection from sexually transmitted disease, especially when we talk about barrier contraceptives like condoms. BIS has developed standards for both male and female condoms. Mr. Sumit Kumar, Member Secretary of Obstetric and Gynecological Instruments and Appliances Sectional Committee, tells us more on this important topic.
Numerous clinical studies have confirmed that male latex condoms are effective in helping to prevent pregnancy and in reducing transmission risk of sexually transmitted infections including HIV. ISO 4074 specifies the requirement and test methods for male condoms made from natural rubber latex. To ensure that condoms are effective, it is essential that condoms fits properly, are free from holes, have adequate physical strength, are correctly packaged to protect them during storage, and are correctly labeled to facilitate their use. All these issues are addressed in this Indian standard along with assessment for biocompatibility, cytotoxicity, irritation and sensitization. Condoms as per this standard are also required to conform to the requirements for bursting pressure and volume. Since some pathogenic organisms like Staphylococcus aureus, E. coli etc. can potentially be found on condoms and can cause urinary tract or other infections, this standard therefore requires establishing procedures for the control and periodic monitoring of microbial contamination as part of manufacturer's quality management system. The stability tests are to be conducted to estimate the shelf life of any new or modified condom before the product is placed on the market and to initiate real-time stability studies. These requirements are intended to ensure that manufacturers have adequate data to support shelf life claims before products are placed on the market, and these data are available for review by regulatory authorities, third-party test laboratories and users. Female condom is a sheath made from polymer films that completely lines the vaginal canal and is designated to be retained in the vagina during the sexual intercourse to prevent pregnancy and transmission of sexually transmitted infections. This Indian standard ISO 25841 specifies the minimum requirement and test methods for the female condoms. To be effective, it is essential that female condoms completely line the vaginal canal, be free from holes and defects, have adequate physical properties so as not to break during use, are correctly packaged to protect them during storage, and are correctly labeled to facilitate their use. To be safe, it is essential that the female condoms and any lubricant, additive, dressing, individual packaging material or powder applied to it neither contain nor liberate substance in amounts that are toxic, sensitizing, irritating or otherwise harmful under normal conditions of storage or use. Since the female condom is in repeated contact with surface mucosa and possibly compromised tissue surfaces, the testing is to be conducted to demonstrate that the material are neither cytotoxic nor cause sensitization, mucosal irritation or acute systemic cytotoxicity. All these issues are addressed in this Indian standard, and it prescribes tests including those for stability, shelf life, freedom from holes, visible defects, packaging integrity, and determining bursting pressure and volume. The standard also covers requirement for clinical investigations in humans. Therefore, conformance to this Indian standard assures complete consumer protection.
Here's a list of some other important standards in this category. Medical devices not only help in restoring the functions of our body organs, but also play a vital role in restoring lost limbs. This brings us to the next category of standards related to assistive products. We all have seen people using a wheelchair. Friends, a wheelchair is one of the most commonly used assistive devices for people with disabilities. It helps them to become self-dependent to some extent and participate as more productive members of their communities. Wheelchair mobility opens up opportunities to study, work, social activities and access to other services. An appropriate wheelchair benefits the physical health and overall quality of life of the users. Let us hear more on assistive products from Mr. Saurav Poddar, young professional in BIS.
An assistive product can be defined as an instrument, equipment or technical system intended by the manufacturer to be used for prevention, treatment or elevation of or compensation for impairment. The assistive product is not only confined for the differently abled persons or Divyangjan, but also to the aging population who also require such devices for their support in day-to-day life. One such device is a wheelchair, and IS 17063 specifies the requirements for manual folding wheelchairs for rough terrain active mode for urban or rural outdoor mobility to be used by adults and children. It covers the requirements of type 1, 2 and 6 wheelchairs in adult and child size, that is for attendant control, non-powered direct drive and non-powered foot propulsion respectively. The wheelchair can be fabricated using locally available raw materials for variable quality like low carbon mild steel for mainframe, nylon polyester fabric for seat and backrest, vulcanized rubber material for caster wheels, etc. The conformity of the wheelchairs is assessed with tests like stability, load, wheeling, hazard running, folding impact and drop test, etc. This Indian standard also ensures interchangeability of replaceable components.
Congenital malformations, diseases, accidents and injuries leading to loss of lower limbs have affected mankind since the dawn of civilization. The resulting impairment in mobility, to some extent, can be restored by medical devices called prosthesis. A prosthesis is an artificial device intended to restore the normal functions of the missing body part. Friends, Jaipur, the pink city of India, is not only crowned for its many achievements in art, food and culture, but is also renowned for its scientific development of the prosthetic leg, the Jaipur foot that has made dreams turn into reality. Let's hear more from Mr. Saurav Poddar, young professional in BIS.
Jaipur foot, which is widely used as a prosthetic system that has transformed the lives of hundreds thousands of amputees all over the world by providing them with mobility and dignity. This Indian standard IS 17034 covers the dimensions and other requirements of Jaipur foot. This prosthesis is hand fabricated using locally available raw materials of variable quality and fitted on the amputee. The dimensions and tolerances of the Jaipur foot for sizes 4 to 10 and the correct fitment of its shape in toe, heel and mediolateral surfaces are provided in this standard. The material of its construction includes microcellular rubber sheet, tread rubber, skin rubber, cushion rubber compound complying with requisite mechanical and physical characteristics. The Jaipur foot prosthesis provides movement in 3 planes vis-a-vis, dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, pronation, supination and transverse rotation at the ankle. For conformity that the Jaipur foot enjoys flexibility in these planes, several tests are incorporated in this standard. The performance and endurance tests on the Jaipur foot includes hardness, relative density, relative volume loss, resistance to cracking, aging, tensile strength and elongation at break, cyclic test consisting of 10 to 12 hours a day within 30 to 60 cycles per minute and shrinkage test.
Here's a list of some other important standards in this category. Friends, the present-day healthcare system depends heavily on laboratory investigations of various biological samples for establishing the diagnosis as well as ascertaining the prognosis of a patient. Even the monitoring of the health status of a person requires laboratory test reports in addition to the clinical examination. Rapid mushrooming of such diagnostic centers warrants for establishment of some benchmark parameters to ensure that the reports generated from the equipment used are retrieved, compiled and communicated in a meticulous manner so as to avoid any misleading or inaccurate diagnosis and interpretation. BIS has formulated Indian standards for overall competence of such laboratories to ensure the reliability of the reports generated from these establishments. Let's hear more on this from Mr. Vineet Vidyadhar Bansod, Member Secretary of Medical Laboratory Instruments Sectional Committee.
The medical laboratory services play an important role in patient care and therefore have to be able to meet the needs of all patients and the clinical personnel responsible for the care of those patients. The Indian standard ISO 15189 medical laboratories requirements for quality and competence aim at creating a standard measure for quality and competence in medical laboratories. This standard addresses to various aspects of quality management and technical requirements of the medical laboratories. Such includes guidelines for qualification of personnel and assessment of their competence, procedure for selection and purchasing, management of equipment, reagents and consumables, arrangement for examination request and patient preparation, then patient identification, collection, transportation and storage of samples, processing, examination and interpretation of samples, reporting and advice in related matters, etc. This standard also specifies about the safety and ethics in medical laboratory work. Fulfillment of the requirements of this standard means the laboratory meets both the technical competence requirements and the management system requirements that are necessary for consistently delivering the technically valid results.
Sedentary lifestyle and inappropriate food habits have pushed our country to the infamous tag of diabetes capital of the world. With an ever-increasing number of diabetics, the disease is not confined to adults only. Diabetes not only leads to impaired glucose tolerance, but also affects the physiology of almost every vital organ of the body. Diabetic retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy, etc. are well-known complications of uncontrolled sugar levels in the blood. Self-monitoring of blood glucose plays an important role in the management of the disease by virtue of regular monitoring and consequent adjustment of pharmaceutical interventions. Glucometer is a simple handheld device which helps to measure blood glucose levels at home as well as in healthcare organizations. BIS has formulated an Indian standard on glucometers. Let's hear more about this important medical device from Mr. Vineet Vidyadhar Bansod.
Blood glucose monitoring systems or glucometers play an important role in helping patients with diabetes mellitus manage their disease, as it helps in tracking the blood glucose fluctuations. The Indian standard ISO 15197 in vitro diagnostic test systems requirements for blood glucose monitoring systems for self-testing in managing diabetes mellitus. This Indian standard aims to establish requirements that result in an acceptable performance and to specify procedures for demonstrating conformance to this standard. This Indian standard specifies requirements for blood glucose monitoring systems for specific design verification procedures, safety and reliability testing, and procedures for evaluation and validation of performance by the intended users.
Have a look at some more important standards under this category. Ventilation is the main function of the lungs. We breathe, exchange oxygen in the air through the lungs into the blood, and expel carbon dioxide from the body. So if the lungs have a problem, we will feel difficult to breathe. Intubation with subsequent mechanical ventilation is a common life-saving intervention in the emergency department. Simply put, a ventilator takes over the body's breathing process when disease has caused the lungs to fail. This gives the patient some time to fight off the infection and recover. This brings us to the next category, anesthetics and resuscitators. Let's hear more from Dr. Pradeep Dua on this.
Ventilators help by assisting the lungs to inhale and exhale the air. These machines are used to treat the patients suffering from debilitating pulmonary conditions. The Indian Standard 80601 Part 2 Section 12 establishes the basic safety and essential performance requirements of a ventilator and its accessories in terms of oxygen level alarm conditions and alarm for airway pressure, expired volume, electrical supply failure, gas supply failure, etc. For the purpose of testing, this standard prescribes for gas flow rate and leakage specifications of the ventilator. It also mentions about the cleaning and disinfection of the equipment. The ventilator intended to provide a delivered volume up to 50 ml per breath, and those intended to provide a delivered volume above 50 ml per breath are covered in this standard. The standard mandates that the ventilator shall be equipped with an oxygen monitoring equipment with an inbuilt alarm system for the measurement of inspiratory oxygen concentration. Such a ventilator shall be capable of supplying gas to the patient containing an oxygen saturation over the range from ambient to at least 90%. Overall emphasis on accuracy of controls and instruments with an inbuilt alarm system for every crucial parameter is the highlight of this Indian standard.
These are some other important standards under this category. Friends, the quality of hospital equipment is very important for smooth delivery of healthcare services. Various types of hospital equipment including sterilizers, incubators, hospital furniture, operation tables, etc. are used in outpatient as well as indoor departments and operation theatres in a hospital. This brings us to the next category of hospital equipment and planning. BIS has formulated several Indian standards in this category. Mr. Sumit Kumar will tell us more on this.
The Indian Standard IS 23485 specifies requirement for quality management system where an organization needs to demonstrate its ability to provide medical devices and related services that consistently meet customer and applicable regulatory requirements. Such organizations can be involved in one or more stages of life cycle, including design, development, production, storage, distribution, installation, servicing of a medical device or associated activities like technical support. Its implementation would encompass compliance to essential principles of safety and performance as well as to quality management system requirements. These include risk evaluation and management for designing and manufacturing of medical devices, clinical evaluation, biocompatibility verification, environmental effects assessment, software validation, and other safety and performance related aspects likely to be encountered during entire life cycle of a medical device. This standard can also be used by suppliers or external parties that provide product and services to such organizations. The quality management system requirements specified in this Indian standard are complementary to the technical requirements and for product, and this standard can be implemented by organizations regardless of their size and type. Moreover, this standard is a merger of three ISO standards: ISO 13485, ISO 16142 Part 1 and ISO 16142 Part 2. The purpose of combining the three standards is to align these standards with the national regulations as well as to harmonize the standards with the latest international practices implemented by the International Medical Device Regulatory Forum or European Union Medical Devices Regulation, and keeping our national interest in focus.
Medical devices play a crucial role in the diagnosis and treatment of diseases, as well as improving the quality of life for people suffering from disabilities. The devices range from disposables typically used at healthcare centers with a lower risk to the patient to high-risk products used in surgical care. To ensure the safety of the patients, the packaging needs to be well thought through and implemented with extensive and documented evaluations. A medical device packaging not only ensures that the device is sterile when delivered to the hospital or the healthcare center, but it must also be easy to open. It also has to withstand long storage, often for years, without any alteration in performance. Let's hear more on this from Ms. Priyanka, Member Secretary of the concerned sectional committee.
A medical device packaging not only ensures that the device is sterile when delivered to the hospital or healthcare center, but it must also be easy to open. It also has to withstand long storage, often for years, without any alteration in performance. BIS has published Indian Standard on Packaging for Terminally Sterile Medical Devices, which has been published in two parts. Part 1 covers requirements for material, sterile barrier systems and packaging systems. We specify requirements and test methods for materials, preformed sterile barrier systems, and packaging systems that are intended to maintain sterility of terminally sterile medical devices until the point of use. It is applicable to industry, to healthcare facilities, and to wherever medical devices are placed in sterile barrier systems and sterilized. This Indian standard covers general requirements like quality systems, risk management, sampling, test methods, and documentation. Materials, preformed sterile barrier systems and sterile barrier systems. Design and development for packaging systems, usability, evaluation for aseptic presentation, packaging system performance and stability, packaging system validation and changes and inspection immediately prior to aseptic presentation. The sterile barrier system describes the minimum packaging required to perform the unique functions required of medical packaging to allow sterilization, to provide an acceptable microbial barrier, and to allow for aseptic presentation. It is essential to ensure the safety of terminally sterile medical devices. Regulatory authorities recognize the critical nature of sterile barrier systems by considering them as an accessory or a component of a medical device. Protective packaging protects the sterile barrier system, and together they form the packaging system. And preformed sterile barrier systems such as pouches, header bags, or hospital packaging reels. The Part 2 of ISO 11607 covers the validation requirements for forming, sealing, and assembly processes for packaging of medical devices that are terminally sterilized. These processes include forming, sealing, and assembly of preformed sterile barrier systems, and packaging systems. It is applicable to industry, to healthcare facilities, and to wherever medical devices are packaged and sterilized. It covers the general requirements like quality systems, risk management, sampling, test methods, documentation, validation of packaging processes, assembly, use of reusable sterile barrier systems, and sterile fluid path packaging. Along with the sterilization process, some of the packaging operations that can affect sterile barrier system integrity are sealing, capping, or other closure systems like cutting, form, fill, seal, assembly processes, and subsequent handling. This Indian standard provides the framework of activities and requirements to develop and validate the process used to make and assemble the packaging system, which is crucial to ensure that sterile barrier system integrity is attained and will remain so until opened by the users.
Friends, in order to adopt strict infection control measures, hospitals and other healthcare facilities use a multitude of items which are discarded after single use and are known as medical disposable products. Injection needles are the most important and commonly used modality to deliver medicines to the parenteral route. When an injection needle is used only once, it cannot transmit infection to subsequent patients. To address this important area, BIS has formulated Indian standard on sterile hypodermic needles. Let's hear more on this from Ms. Priyanka, Member Secretary of the concerned sectional committee.
Indian standard on sterile hypodermic needles for single use has been published by BIS, which specifies requirements and test methods for sterile hypodermic needles for single use of designated metric sizes 0.18 mm to 1.2 mm. These hypodermic needles are intended for use with syringes having a 6% lower conical fitting as specified in ISO 803-69 Part 7 in conjunction with ISO 803-69 Part 1 and Part 20. This standard covers various requirements like testing finished products on sterilized products, statistics and reproducibility of test methods, cleanliness, limits for acidity or alkalinity, limits for extractable metals, size designation covering tubular needle designation and tapered needle designation, color coding, needle hub covering conical fitting and color of hub, needle cap, needle tube covering requirements like tolerances on length, freedom from defects, lubricant, needle point, bond between hub and needle tube, patency of lumen, sharps injury protection and sterility and biocompatibility. Packaging requirements covering unit packaging, user packaging, information supplied by the manufacturer, storage container and transport wrapping. Adherence to this Indian standard is likely to ensure safety of hypodermic needles for use in patients.
Here's a list of some other important standards in this category. Automation, computerization and consequent interoperability form the mainstay of present-day industrial technology, and the field of medical devices and overall healthcare is not spared from this. Health informatics is the intersection of information science and healthcare. Use of health informatic technologies helps to improve the quality of healthcare, minimize medical errors, reduce healthcare costs, increase administrative efficiency, and expand access to affordable healthcare. A number of Indian standards covering various key aspects of digital health, as for example, architectural and functional requirements, patient identifiers, data privacy and security, data encryption and data integrity, medical device interfacing, etc., have been formulated by BIS. Mr. Chandan Kumar, Member Secretary of Health Informatics Sectional Committee, tells us more about health informatics standards.
Electronic health records, popularly called EHRs, are real-time patient-centered records which contain a patient's medical history, diagnosis, medications, treatment plans, immunization dates, allergies, radiology images, laboratory and test results, etc. EHRs are a vital part of health IT and allow access to evidence-based tools that healthcare providers can use to make decisions about a patient's care. BIS has published Indian Standard ISO 18308, which is intended to be used when designing the architecture of health information services that incorporate or interact with EHR systems or repositories. This standard defines a set of requirements for an EHR architecture system that processes, manages and communicates electronic health record information. These requirements ensure that the EHRs are faithful to the needs of healthcare delivery, are clinically valid and reliable, are ethically sound, meet prevailing legal requirements, support good clinical practice and facilitate data analysis for a multitude of purposes. This standard first lists out high-level business objectives for electronic health records in three categories: health system objectives, clinical practice objectives and citizen inclusion objectives. Subsequently, requirements for electronic health record architecture have been defined in following parts: requirements for the representation of clinical information, communication and interoperability requirements, ethical and legal requirements, fair information principles.
Here's a list of some other important standards in this category. Friends, the next category that we are going to talk about is electromedical equipment. This category has a wide range of applications in diagnostics and therapeutics in the medical device industry. Owing to the ever-increasing number of people suffering from cardiovascular ailments, the role of diagnostics like electrocardiograph, commonly called as ECG, has assumed paramount importance, not only in diagnosis but also in prognostic evaluation and management of the underlying pathology. ECG is an electromedical device that produces a graphical record of the electrical signals produced by the heart on a thermal sensitive paper. Let's hear from Mr. Chandan Kumar about how the BIS standard on electrocardiograph ensures safety and performance of the device.
Accuracy of ECG as well as the electrical safety of the electrocardiograph equipment is essential for helping in precise diagnosis and ensuring the safety of the patient undergoing the test. BIS has published Indian Standard IS 13450 Part 2 Section 25, which specifies requirements for basic safety and essential performance of electrocardiograph equipment, associated lead wires and electrodes. For ensuring basic safety, this standard covers requirements and test methods for protection against electric shock, protection against electrical hazards from the equipment, protection against mechanical hazards of the equipment, protection against unwanted and excessive radiation hazards, protection against excessive temperatures and other hazards. In addition to this, requirements and test methods concerning accuracy of controls and instruments, electromagnetic compatibility, defibrillation protection, filters, electrostatic discharge, electric fast transients and bursts, conducted disturbances, electrosurgery interference, construction, alarm systems, programmable electrical medical systems, etc. are also included to ensure essential performance of the equipment.
In modern times, unhealthy lifestyle and stress are leading causes of cardiac arrest. In cardiac arrest, the heart abruptly stops beating and without prompt intervention can result in the person's death. This medical emergency needs immediate cardiopulmonary resuscitation or CPR or use of a defibrillator, which can restore a normal heartbeat by sending an electric pulse or shock to the heart. Let's hear more from Mr. Gautam Kapoor, young professional in MHD BIS.
Cardiac defibrillator is a medical electrical equipment intended to normalize the rhythm of the heart by an electrical pulse via electrodes applied either to the patient's skin with external electrodes or to the exposed heart with internal electrodes. The Indian standard IS 13450 Part 2 Section 4 on medical electrical equipment establishes basic safety and essential performance requirements for cardiac defibrillators. It also describes defibrillation waveform technology, which is evolving rapidly. Several equipment have been mentioned, which include dummy circuit, discharge equipment, energy storage device, and dummy components whose power, safety and levels are monitored in order to ensure smooth functioning of the cardiac defibrillators. Modifications of the existing defibrillator technology has also been mentioned, such as external transcutaneous pacemaker, which is an optional circuit within the defibrillator intended to stimulate the heart via a series of electrical pulses via electrode applied to the patient's skin, and automated external defibrillator that once activated by the operator analyzes the ECG from the electrodes placed on the patient's skin, identifies shockable cardiac rhythms, and automatically operates the defibrillator when a shockable rhythm is detected. Several warning mechanisms have also been described in detail, which can immediately detect if any component of the defibrillator malfunctions.
Have a look at some more important standards under this category. Friends, science is dynamic. So is the science related to medical devices. With new technologies being developed every day and with innovative medical devices being introduced in the market very frequently, it becomes imperative to keep pace with this evolving milieu. BIS has geared up to augment the scope of formulation of Indian standards to encompass the emerging areas in medical devices like artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, etc. Let's hear more regarding the futuristic vision of BIS, especially in the area of medical devices, from none other than Mr. P.V. Matthew, Head of the Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Department in the BIS.
Technology develops rapidly, so also in the field of medical and hospital equipment. It is a challenge to formulate standards in these new areas of technology, as the newly developed technologies are replaced by better ones in relatively short time frame. MHD is taking up standardization in telemedicine, security of connected network devices, Ayush informatics, which deals with maintenance and utilization of data generated by practitioners of Indian traditional systems of medicines, biomedical waste management, medical biotechnology, nanotechnology, etc. To prepare error-free standards, participation of all of you is a must. We request you to regularly visit our web portal www.managonline.in and provide your support by getting involved in the national effort by submitting your comments on the drafts as well as by becoming members of the sectional committees of your expertise.
Medical devices play a vital role in safeguarding the well-being of the people. India's medical device industry is poised to grow exponentially in the times to come. The need of the hour is to maintain the optimal quality of medical diagnostic and therapeutic devices, as well as related infrastructure. BIS is committed to augment the Indian standards commensurate to the national requirements and international standards. We look forward to proactive participation of the stakeholders in this dynamic process. To further explore and participate in the process of formulation of Indian standards, you may visit our portal.
The BIS e-governance portal, Manak Online, provides a comprehensive view of its activities, including on standardization. This portal serves BIS Technical Committee members and also other users of Indian standards. Filters to view the aspect-wise Indian standards classified based on test methods, product specifications, codes of practices, etc. is also available. The list of Indian standards relevant to various ministries and departments can also be accessed online. Details of published Indian standards and draft standards open for public commenting are also available. Proposals can also be submitted through the portal to make new Indian standards. Details about the technical committees, members and their affiliations through Manak Online are just one click away.
So friends, let's pledge to implement the Indian standards for medical devices to achieve health for all.